Hey friends, how are we doing today? Got the Corvette behind me. We're gonna start doing some things. Honestly, I'm gonna tear down the engine, I'm gonna pull it out, I'm gonna get a bunch of stuff done to it. But in the process, I'm hoping to find out why this thing wasn't running properly. So as I tear it down, I'll be looking at things like the timing chain, head gaskets, all that stuff, because something was causing it not to run right. I don't want to go through all this work of rebuilding the engine, toss everything back together, and it's still not run. But I will be making some videos. I'll be getting the engine out. I'm going to clean the undercarriage. I'm going to clean the engine bay. I'm going to replace motor mounts. I'm going to replace Opti spark. I'm going to probably do the LT/CC conversion, which is converting the Opti to LS style coil packs that go on the valve covers. So I think that's part of what we're going to do this year. We're going to do probably electric water pump, going to clean up everything up here, going to do a new radiator, just going to do a lot of stuff. We're going to do a full exhaust system, all that stuff. So that's what you guys can look forward to over the course of the next, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. Like I said, I'm going to be pulling the motor out. So I am going to take off everything. I'm going to take off the AC compressor, going to take off everything on the front. I'm going to take off the power steering pulley, power steering pump, probably replace a lot of these parts while I'm in here, just so that way when I put it back together, I know it's gonna last for a while. I am going to probably look at that rack and pinion. It looks like it might be leaking from the bottom. I'll be replacing the throttle body. BBK, I think, is what I'll probably end up going with. I may end up doing heads and cam on this thing too. Looking at maybe like a Lloyd Elliott setup for that. That'd be pretty awesome. My goal is basically going to be to have this car like a brand new car by the time I'm done, replacing everything on it that I can. And to be honest, if I can find a computer, an ECM for it, I'll probably just order one of those too. Because like I said, I don't want to go through all this work, put it back together, and it's still not run. So I'm going to replace everything on this car that I can over the winter months that are coming up. Today, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and drain the coolant out, since I didn't do that when I removed the intake manifold. I'm gonna drain that. I'm gonna pull the valve covers back off. I'm gonna disconnect all the brackets and everything attached to the heads, and I'm gonna unbolt these heads and get these heads pulled off today. And we'll check the head gaskets while we have that out, see if anything looks crazy there or not. And one of you awesome viewers out there recently did a radiator in their car, Genius. So when I get ready to do mine, I'll probably be picking his brain a lot because I think I'm gonna go with the same setup that he did in his car. As the coolant is draining down there, like I said, I'm gonna start disconnecting things on the engine here. I've gotta take the ignition control module off, the coil off. I'm gonna disconnect the power steering reservoir here, take off the water pump, take off the power steering bracket, that AC compressor, power steering pump. I'm gonna get all of this off while that's draining down there. And I'll be using like this fluid transfer pump to empty out the reservoir for the power steering pump. Otherwise, the other option is you disconnect the hoses on the bottom and then the fluid goes everywhere and it's a mess. So I'm gonna get as much out of there as I can with this fluid transfer pump into my little container down there, and then we will disconnect that. And this series of videos is not gonna be so much how-to, just more informational as I tear apart my car to figure out what was wrong with it. But you can see there, fluid drained out using that transfer pump. So now I can disconnect the lines there and then lift this whole bracket off. I disconnected it from the block, you can see right there. Power steering reservoir out of the way. I'm going to tackle the water pump next. I'm going to disconnect the hoses, unbolt it, and pull that off. Now that we've got the water pump out of the way, I'm going to unbolt the harmonic balancer here, and mine actually will slide out of the car. I've heard that's not normal. And then we'll go ahead and pull off this Opti spark here, get that out of the way. All right, so now I've got the harmonic balancer off, distributor off, water pump off. I'm gonna go over and remove the AC compressor, the power steering pump, and all the brackets on the engine block on that side. You can see how gross and nasty this is. I mean, this is part of the reason I want to just pull this thing out and do a complete rebuild anyway, so I can just clean this up, because this is gross. My car's been sitting for a while, so the AC compressor and AC system was already emptied. So I disconnect my lines from the compressor. I pulled out the compressor, and then I've gone over here, I followed the lines, disconnected the big line there, disconnected the smaller one from the front of the condenser there, and I'm gonna pull these 2 bolts out that hold this bracket on right here. Then I'm gonna lift these lines up out of the way, and then, like I said, we'll get over here and get all this out of the way. Let me tell you, getting this bracket off the driver's side sucks. It's not easy. There's nuts and bolts and there's stuff everywhere. There's bolts on the power steering pump attached to the bracket. There's a bracket that was behind the compressor here. There's a bolt that's there. There's a bolt on the bottom I've still got to do. And I'm not sure if there's still some more down on this side or not. But man, be ready if you're going to do this. This really sucks. There's a tricky one. This is where the belt tensioner mounts. There's a bolt right there that is underneath that. So you have to pull that belt tensioner out to get that bolt. It's the last bolt. You can see now it's all loose. Holy smokes. Are they trying to trick us on this? That thing was in there. And part of doing this job, there's this power steering pressure line right there. I've already loosened that, but that is a pain in the butt. What I did is I put a wrench through the holes at the front here, kind of show you. In like this, you can kind of move it around till you can get it on there, you know, by just moving it, and then attached on the back side. And that's how I loosened it. Just a trick. You could get a pulley remover, pull this pulley off and do it too, but there's plenty of room to get this wrench in here and loosen it that way too. Just so you're aware. The other option you would have too for that power steering pump is to follow that power pressure line, and it's on the rack right there. So you could actually unbolt it right there as well and pull this off. They have that saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Why is someone skinning cats, and why did they figure out there's more than one way? That's really strange. There's a cat. If you have yourself some of these guys too, these I don't know, double flare wrench thingies or whatever, that'll make getting those nuts off way easier too. And now we're starting to get a better idea of what this mess looks like down here. So we got the bracket off, power steering pump off, distributor off, everything is off the front. So now, honestly, we're at a point where we could go ahead and disconnect the transmission and unhook the motor mounts and get ready to lift this thing out. Or we can pull the heads off, the manifolds now, and then get to a point where we'll just pull the block out, which I think that's what we'll do. So I think the next step is going to be to get these exhaust manifolds off and then get the heads out of the car. Well, Pip says it's break time, so time to stop this and have a little cold beverage on this super humid, warm day. Definitely break time. Yeah. Mr. Pip really needs a haircut too. He's looking kind of shaggy. But this is where I'm going to be ending this video tonight. I've got the front of the motor completely disassembled. I've got bunches and bunches of parts on the bench here. And then I'll pick up tomorrow by taking those valve covers off, taking those manifolds off, pulling the heads off. We'll see what those gaskets look like. If you haven't done so, be sure to subscribe below. I appreciate the support. What do you think so far? What do you think I'm gonna find? Is it gonna be the timing chain? Gonna be head gaskets? Is it gonna be something else? I mean, at this point, I don't even know. But we're gonna redo everything, like I said earlier in the video, make this thing amazing, so that way next year, I can enjoy driving my C4 Corvette. So keep an eye out for the next video. I'll post that up at some point. I do have a video for my Focus coming up. I'm gonna be doing a stereo install, so watch for that one later this week, possibly. And until next time.